Now, we've stressed the people aspect of analytics, and wisely so, but that's only part of what we need to look at when we're looking at analytics. We still need the tools and technologies to make it all possible. And we have an abundance of possibilities. So many, in fact, that it might be perhaps a little hard to decide what we need and why. So our next presentation is a panel that will talk about that issue in particular. Perfect timing. This is great. Today's organizations have a dizzying array of options and new technologies in data and analytics. I think we all agree on that. So this group of data leaders will share their experiences in leading edge technology, at the leading edge of technology, I'd rather say, and they'll offer their best advice on how to stay at the front of technology curve without risking overreach. Have I overblown you guys too much? Do you feel nervous now? Yeah. No, don't worry about it. In there. So our panel is Mike Armson, Data Associates, Sklar, Wilton, and Associates. Raise your hand when I introduce you so people can know who you are. Michael Morris is Director of Data and Analytics with Global Furniture in there. And Eugene Wen, Vice President, Group Analytics for Manulife. We've met before this. We've been on panels together. So you guys, I think we've met as well. So let's jump into it. So take a second. We'll just go around here. Introduce yourself quickly and what your role is in analytics. And why is that important? When do we start?
Michael Morris. I'm Director of Data and Analytics at the Global Furniture Group. We're an office furniture manufacturer in Canada, a Canadian-owned company, and I take care of data and analytics and an introduction to it to the organization on how we can use it to make great decisions, help the company along.
Cool.
Mike Armson. I'm a data science associate at Sklar, Wilton & Associates. We're a business consulting firm here in Toronto with a variety of clients across different industries, and we help them with strategy and research. I'm on the research side, the analytics team. So we basically take large data sets, either client or sales data, clean the data, run analyses, and provide insights to help our clients solve business problems.
Great. And Eugene?
Yeah, I'm Eugene Wen, VP for Group of Analytics for Manulife. It's the largest life insurance company in Canada. My responsibility, I can summarize in 3 bullet points. First, I lead the data science area supporting our global headquarter functions. Second, I own the mandate for global responsible AI and model risk management. And thirdly, I lead the global AI advanced analytics related research and development functions, R&D, and we bring the new methodology, new practice into Manulife. Thank you.
That's it? You slacker. Jeez, that's amazing. Yeah. And so, okay, is there a framework that people could use to think about data analytics that you could share with the audience? How do you keep this in your mind? What are you looking for in tools and analytics? Who wants to go first?
I can go. So I think one thing, just to build off some things Kimberly was saying in the last talk, is just it sounds kind of obvious, but really, what problem can the tool solve? And it should have a variety of tools, and they should each serve a very specific purpose. So it's easy to get kind of distracted by some of the bells and whistles, but stay close to what. What the tool can actually do for your business.
I think it's going to be a big takeaway from today.
Yeah, I think it's also like, where's my pain point and how is it going to help me solve my problem that I'm having at that moment? And it's also finding the solution that works for you for what you're looking for and not get overwhelmed, like you said, by so many solutions. And also, how it can help the organization in the long run and not something that's going to just sit there and everyone gets excited about, but nobody ever uses.
Okay. Eugene?
Yeah, for me, it's first I need to identify what we are looking for, as Mike just mentioned. I use the analogy of Christmas shopping. There's a lot of things and good tools outside there. But to start with, not on what tool we're looking for, is what we really want to solve. As Kimberly just mentioned, start with the problems, and then we're looking for tools. On tools side, we need to identify the solution, the value, and all the cost effectiveness. The third thing is beyond the tool itself, is what happened after you got that tool in, and are you going to get sufficient support? Is this vendor and this system is fitting your own company's architecture principles? And also, is your question can be answered quickly by this service company, or you have to wait for weeks just to trying to get a quick answer? All these need to be balanced when we decide what type of tool and what our kind of selection going to be. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Any agreement in there?
Yeah, I find that too, if we're talking about how we're starting to make that decision. I mean, we're a Canadian organization, and it's not 100% when we must do this, but we look for organizations that are either Canadian or have a Canadian presence, like an office here. Sometimes when you're dealing with someone in Texas from an American organization, they really don't understand how Canadians do business. And you know, I've called up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get our Northeast rep to call you. And the guy works in Boston or something. And you don't get that connection from the organization that there's actually a person that really cares about what's happening. I think a solution that is not overwhelming for your organization, and I like to get involved with someone that we can pick what we want and what we need. Not, oh my God, you have to take this entire gigantic package, and like we only want this small part. It's sort of like we can start with this small part and let's see where it leads and let's grow from there. Not, well, this is all this stuff and it's going to be amazing for you, but we're not looking for every single thing in that solution. So I think that that's really important for us because we're not a bank or an insurance company. We're a manufacturer in Canada that's mid-sized market, and you know we have a certain budget that we have to hit. And sometimes a lot of these organizations come in thinking, you know, you got $100 million to spend, and we don't. So that makes a big difference for us.
Yeah, and our culture is different. I
It
mean,
is.
not better, worse, but different.
No,
in there.
it's different. They do business in a different way than we do.
Yeah, and the size and scope of things may be bigger. And,
Yes.
and I think the fact that we have to prove our investments, so
Yes.
we're conservative
Yes.
as a culture.
And I work for private organizations, so it's a little bit different than working for a public company.
So, you can answer, Lee?
Yeah, I think just to add, Eugene was talking about tech support. I agree that's, critical piece. So something that you can, try and get a bit of a sense of during the, the sales process. So, if you're doing a trial, just, try to ask some good questions and see, it's speed is obviously important, but also, how easy to understand are the solutions, or quick to kind of get right to the heart of the problem. So that's something that you can kind of figure out during the sales process if possible.
So two things, during the sales process, find out how they're going to serve, how they're going to understand your company and serve you in there, and create the opportunities for that. And as I've always said, when people tell you who they are, believe them, in the first part of that. But you added a second point to that. That's
Basically, well, during the sales process, you can start, usually you'll see a demo, and then also, if you can do a trial, that's also an important piece, just to actually, try and use the tool, as you will in kind of your daily function, and just, so try to get as much of a sense of the kind of real scenario when you'll be using the tool as you can.
Sometimes we've actually sent a data set to them. I mean, we sign confidentially, and said, look, we want you to do this, show us what you can do with it as well, because they're sort of the experts. It takes time for people that work with you, no matter how great they are doing their jobs, to get up to speed on whatever product you're purchasing.
And Eugene, we're with a lot of data, large organization, a lot of data. How do you evaluate the tools through that process?
In that process, I pick what Mike mentioned, the trial. Definitely, that's important. Another is have to keep in mind, analytical teams, just as Kimberly mentioned, we are not the final users of the business. We need to, during the trial process, in the early stages planning, need to get our end users, which is business frontline decision makers, our frontline employees who serving our customer, and the people who make decisions related different strategic choices, where our analytics going to be support them either operationally or strategically, and those input are also equally important, need to be considered, in addition to the bells and whistles of the tool itself.
So we talked about, this is a key point, and I think it's easy to get absorbed into how well the tools work for us as analytics professionals, but how they're going to serve the end users and the other stakeholders that you have in there. Are there tips for making sure that that works?
Yes, and what your question reminded me, a very well-known composer, musician, and conductor once said, he said, the composers, musicians sometimes write music for other musicians, and also sometimes they write music for the regular audiences. We, as an analytic team, we do need to make sure we know what our core focus is going to be. We are not, so all the work and the tools and methodology models we developed is more trying to impress our peers, which is important. Means that our methodology is advanced, and I do promote that in our organization among data scientists. But at the same time, most importantly, make sure all our work actually serve the business, generate the value, and the business users can use that in an intuitive way, back to Kimberly's early comment. And our regular business people are not prepared to run another analytics before using yours, and make sure our results, the tools, the models are actually, it's intuitively, readily under their fingertips.
Best analogy I've heard in a long time is, are you
Thank
going to make, if you're making progressive jazz with 13 of you late at night in a club, that's great. But if you've got to write popular music, don't try to impress your fellow musicians. Good stuff. Any comments from you guys?
Yeah, I think we take into the account the users as well, because they're the ones that are, the analysts and the data people, they pick up on these things, but most of the time is spent training the business user to go in and, we use a lot of self-serve analytics because that's what we've pushed out, but it's a lot of training, and you have to be patient, and when you get these things, you have to think about who's really going to be the real user. One of the things I also think about is my price, right?
Yeah.
It's a big point of this, and how can you get that price into the budget that you're looking for? Like, some companies are just like, well, it's so much a user, and it depends what they're doing, and how many users are you going to add? And all of a sudden, your budget can explode, because maybe in the beginning you're starting with 5 people, but then all of a sudden it becomes 85 people, and there goes your budget. Other organizations have it, there's a blanket amount, it's so many users. We have it that we have a lot of users on, and in the beginning they were like, well, it might slow down because if so many people come on. But the thing is, we figured out, look, everyone's not going on at the same, like if all those users went on at that 1 minute, yes, of course it's going to, but not everyone, they're going in and out as needed. And that makes a big part of your decision. Also too, like if you wait till they're quarter, sometimes you can get a good deal, right? So, that's something that we do, right? Everyone knows, oh my God, it's this price, and then, oh my gosh, I can give you 35% off because it's my quarter, and I gotta make my goal.
I keep telling people, if they're, they have to make the person who buys the software successful.
And also, it's a relationship with the person that you're doing business with.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's the salesperson, but if you don't have a good relationship and you don't find that there's that synergy, like, it sort of puts a sour taste in your mouth for the rest of the process. And some people are just like, well, why wouldn't you want to buy my product? And also too, I'm just saying don't, but I don't want to be negative, but don't give me a 35-page form to fill in because you want me to buy your stuff. Like, oh, by the way, can you just fill all this in? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing homework for you, okay? Like, come and talk to me or go online and do what you need to do. But when you get to that thing, I understand sometimes they need some more technical information, but like right away, oh, here's this thing, fill it in before we even meet. I'm like, we're not even gonna meet if you're making me fill this in beforehand.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, one thing that sparked for me is just, new users in our experience are can be critical, even in terms of
I'm
the
shocked.
Yes.
Critical?
Yeah. Well, in terms of some of the tools that we use, we find some of the new users we've brought in kind of help to unlock even kind of more capabilities, kind of get you out of the expert mindset. So I guess just the point being just to make sure that you have the capability to add the new users when they come along, in
Yeah.
terms of pricing and everything like that.
Yeah. And also to win them over. I mean, that's, they don't always have, well, they're not always there with open arms saying, oh boy, you brought me something new, just what I wanted for my day. I think we're surprised sometimes when we find out that we get a negative reaction to some tools as well.
The vendors are doing a selling job on you, but you actually have to sell it to the people. Like, part of your job is selling this product to the people that you want to help, okay, and how great it is. And you're doing your own selling job every day to promote this product that you and your group, I mean, we have a group of people that help make the decision.
Yeah, but I also think it's important not to or I think it's important to welcome the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get those before you
yeah.
sign the contract.
Oh, yeah.
In there. Good stuff. So okay, that's the new tools piece of it. But it's fine to have new tools, but how do we get the best from what we have already? How do we get the best out of the tools that we've got and get more out of those?
I can start with this. These days, most of enterprises already have multiple tools in-house, especially with the long history, large companies over the many years, different generation of tools. Quite often, these tools not just stay there. Also, the functionality, as Kimberly just mentioned earlier, it's also developing, evolving, and one of the first step is to stay close to the vendors, to the tools, and who provide those tools, and continue to learn and keep updating, and the new capability, new functions. Quite often, many of the major analytical tools vendors also invest a lot of research development and following the trend. That's probably one of the easiest way, because you got free training and you got free advice, especially all those reputed vendors provide expert advice. And thirdly, you already paid all the tools already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just those functions or new functions, you may not be aware of that yet. So be comprehensive to learn what we have already rather than a new one first. The second is to have a diversity of users. Quite often, and those tools provide a lot of functionality. Not necessarily every single data scientist or every single line of business will use every part of it. But if we have a diversity of users and diversity of businesses, and some business prefer more forecasting models, some business like call center prefer more natural language processing, NLP models, others may prefer more on fraud detections. And if we have a broader diversity of users and using the same tool with different perspective, that's going to be dramatically scale up your productivity and efficiency.
So not only for selection, but actually as you're using it, start to figure out the different models that people are using and try and apply those within the tools in there. That's good. Yeah. Other comments?
I had a very similar list to Eugene, but yeah, just to echo, there's a ton of materials out there, so just to, use those to the fullest in terms of videos and different training. And then, I agree in terms of, stay close. If there's things that you want to do, if you get on the phone or email with someone, a lot of the time, it can be done. So it's just, it's good to have that relationship with the vendor for sure.
Yeah, and also too, we started small, and we picked what we needed for what we needed, and then it's exploring and, oh my gosh, it can do this. Oh my gosh, we're doing this. And it sort of builds on that. Also too, you have to find people that are champions for it and get excited about it, that aren't necessarily data scientists, data analysts, and sort of be like, wow, what can you do? And they sort of pull it along so that you explore more into what you can do with the product. Because in the beginning when you get it, there's so many things, you know, you're not an expert. It's like, so you start to become an expert in that part of it, and then you expand out slowly and bring those things together.
It seems to be the mantra, and I know Kimberly talked about it earlier, and there's this idea of, and I've heard it expressed as crawl, walk, run, you know, you can, yeah, and then fly.
Yes.
Yeah, don't try the flying first, yeah.
A lot of places want you, like.
I'm just gonna look over the
in
control
beginning-
desk here to see how much time we got left, because I just, we've got some questions coming in from the audience, so how are we doing? We're good on time? Okay, so, we've got a question from the audience out there, so thank you. And these are coming in, you can see them on my tablet in here. Mike mentioned data cleaning in passing, and that is often disregarded when tool hunting. And we all know bad data, bad answers in there. So what do you recommend in dealing with, when you're doing tool selection or application, to deal with the data issues that you're going to find?
Well, we used AI to help us. So it's like everyone's like AI and it's going to make amazing predictions, decisions, but it actually helped us clean our data, AI. So we partnered actually with SAS on a product that they have that's little known. And because when we started with our analytics visualization, we brought our data in, and I mean, I had great clean data sets, but when we went to our mainframe, we have a really old legacy. All of a sudden we brought in the data and it was a disaster, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And the AI helped us clean our data in a way that we didn't have to have 500 people sitting there figuring it out. It worked with the data, it found what it was, it said, hey, does this look like this? Yes, it did, and it helped our data people get us data sets that were clean so we could get a win, because if all of a sudden we invested all this money and our data sets, I had to go back and be like, oh my gosh, we have to clean all these data sets that we didn't realize, it would have been really bad. So that product just helped us immensely.
Great, fabulous.
Yeah.
Very good, yeah. So an AI product that helps you go through your data, so that's one. I want to ask, anything else?
Yeah, just to add, my organization's still kind of getting to the point of using AI. That sounds like a great solution, but we're still kind of doing it a bit more manually. But for us, I'd say to answer the question, you know, during the trial period, we try to just, you know, replicate the process as end-to-end as possible. So starting even with raw data and doing some data cleaning as part of the trial is important, since that is, you know, a big part of what we do.
Yeah, good stuff. And I know from our point of view as well too, we don't we give them a real set of data and tell them, show me what you can do with it. Like, here's real data, you tell me, you know, how you're going to figure it out. Eugene, what?
I'm going to pick what Kimberly mentioned earlier. One of the 6 attributes is governance. In addition to tools, AI help us clean the data. We have to look where that data quality messiness came from. And quite often, it's not in the data warehouse, not in the data analyst hand. It's upstream way at the beginning when the data generated. So a comprehensive data quality and data governance structure, principles, and practices is very important to address these issues. That's why recently in Manulife, we even have another push to investment into data governance.
Okay, great.
It's like I find too that a lot of times, and like especially, I'm sure there's a lot of companies that hear about this and want to get into this, and they're not big organizations, but like a lot of times they don't even know what governance is or how to deal with it. And if you don't have good governance, which is like the foundation, it doesn't matter how many of these tools you invest in. Without the foundation, all the other stuff it looks great, but it's not. You're going to have a lot of pain getting to that point.
Okay, great. Just to the control desk there, the monitor's gone off on this side, so you'd have to restart that one for me over there. I just want to finish up with just one thing in there. What's the next tool that you get excited about? What's the next thing that you're going to get excited about in this?
How about this? I can start. The next thing get me excited, it depends on what we as an industry, especially as a large enterprise, what next our needs are. At this moment, companies like Manulife already well-established internal analytical teams, capabilities, analytical tools, data warehouse, or data lake, those infrastructure. The data science use cases has been developed in different line of business. The next challenge is not have analytics. Next challenge is scaling up the whole analytics, and not just have a successful use cases or few successful use cases. Actually, make every line of business, every step, a use case of data science and analytics. So in this context, my ideal tool would be to help us to embed our analytical solutions from development to deployment. The whole DevOps and process can be closely connected to our actual frontline business processes. If any vendor can get that solved, and the potential is enormous.
So you're talking about DevOps and analytics in there. That's it, yeah.
It is. So the DevOps, and that's talk about our backend, our whole process, ML ops. But to the last kick is how can you embed the result into frontline business processes? And Kimberly mentioned the business users and don't want another separate tool they have to work on.
Yeah.
If we can make the AI analytical results kind of naturally, even people wouldn't know it. It's something, there's an analytical process already in. Just take it as part of the business. And there's no new dashboard, no new tool have to open, just regular part of the business process has a one number and one line of insight they can use at the moment when they need.
Yeah.
Any tool can solve this. I'm going to be on the front line to waiting for
All right.
to evaluate it, but not buy yet. Trial, as Mike mentioned.
I don't think it's like, I mean, that's amazing, but also too, I think storytelling, like Kimberly said, it's not it's how do you get that across in a way that a business user gets and understands and doesn't have to go through 100 charts and appendixes. Here's a story of what's happening, here's where we're going, here's what we can do, and that's where there's that sort of idea that, wow, this really works, and we really trust it. I find that it's constantly like, everyone is constantly challenging the information, even though you have every documentation and saying here's what everything is and this is how we did it. It's always being challenged, okay? There's always something. So if we can get into much better way of storytelling and making a bridge between those data scientists and the business and the real world, okay, then that I think is a really big function that could come.
Yeah, so just to build off that, that is actually kind of one problem we're looking to solve with new tools is the storytelling piece, and we often visualize data with dashboards, and that's something we currently outsource, but we're looking for dashboarding solutions that kind of work with the way that the rest of the process that we use, just to make it all kind of in sync. So that's one thing where my organization is looking for currently. But
Dashboards that tell a story, that integrate with the processes and give people the information
Scaling
just
up,
when they
yeah.
need it
Yeah.
in there. That's the zen of where we want to get to in all of this. Thank you so much.